All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our final session for the day. It's my honor and my pleasure to introduce our panel this afternoon. Kelsee Hove is an occupational therapist. She received her undergraduate degree at UNI. She received her doctorate in occupational therapy from Creighton. She's been working in the field of brain injury for 5 years. We've been fortunate to have her as a staff occupational therapist, and she currently serves as assistant professor in the occupational therapy department at Drake University. Courtney Huber has been a speech-language pathologist for 12 years, working in the field of brain injury. She received her degree in SLP from Purdue and is a specialist in cognitive rehabilitation, has received lots of training, and is a national speaker in the field of cognitive rehabilitation. And last but not least, we have Patti and Ryan Jansa, and they have been through our inpatient. Did I mispronounce your last name? No, you did good. I did good? All right. They've been through our inpatient program, they've been through our outpatient program, and we have learned just a tremendous amount about grace and hope and what it takes to facilitate recovery after brain injury. So we're excited to have them share their story. All right, you're on.
Is this working? Okay, perfect. So like Dave said, we're just gonna kind of get started to tell kind of Ryan's journey through his inpatient stay and his outpatient stay, and then his transition to home from On With Life. So first I'll tell a little bit about Ryan. So in May of 2016, Ryan was living kind of just the typical college life. He was a University of Iowa student pursuing a degree in engineering and just living on his own and just the typical life that any college student was living until May 14th of 2016 when he was found unresponsive in an alley. And I believe we're going to play a little video clip from the beginning.
He has suffered some pretty severe head trauma. He's had to have part of his brain removed.
Ryan Jansa is barely recognizable to his family right now. The 24-year-old is in the ICU at the University of Iowa hospitals, unable to tell anyone what happened to him.
No one should have to go through this, and no one should have to suffer the way Ryan's been suffering.
Iowa City police say Jansa was found unconscious near a dumpster in this alley around 6 a.m. Saturday. He was last seen at the Fieldhouse Bar about a block away, where he spent a night out with friends. Those friends say they lost track of Jansa at bar closing time.
We really don't know what happened to him at this point.
There are no eyewitnesses or surveillance video, but the family believes Jansa was assaulted because of all the bruises all over his chest, his broken wrist, and contusions on both sides of his head.
We really believe it's suspicious. I mean, we're not ruling out anything.
Now they're hoping somebody somewhere saw something during the busy graduation weekend.
If you know something, say something. We don't want anybody else to ever have to go through this.
Jansa has already had 2 brain surgeries. Doctors still aren't sure how the trauma will affect him long term.
If someone did this to him, we want him to be held accountable.
Okay. So a little bit about Ryan's injury. As you could see in the video, when he first came to On With Life, he was pretty severely injured. So he had a craniectomy to allow for some swelling of his brain from his injury. He was admitted to On With Life June 3rd of 2016, so about 3 weeks or so after the initial injury. And he was admitted into our Disorders of Consciousness program and considered in a minimally conscious state when he was first admitted, but emerged from that in about 1 week. And I will just have to say a little side note before I keep going. If we see Ryan falling asleep, it's because his sugar high has worn out. He proceeded to eat all of the chocolate at his table, my table, and the table in front of him this morning as we were listening. So I was trying to pay attention, and I got a tap that said, "Hey, can I have your chocolate?" So just a heads up, if you start falling asleep, your sugar high has now worn off. My talking's gonna put you to sleep. Hopefully not. So one of the biggest keys for success for Ryan when he was going through the inpatient program was collaboration. So collaborating with Ryan and his family and the team members, nursing staff, therapy staff, everyone that was involved. So for Ryan, he was extremely fortunate to have such a supportive family. His mom was there in about every session. She had her handy little notebook that she would take out and take notes from everything we would say. Every tip that we would talk about, she would want to know everything and anything going on so that she could help Ryan when he was not in those therapy sessions. So as far as him having success in the inpatient, we found that making sure that we worked as a team was extremely important. And some of that included allowing his mom or family members to come along to appointments, or maybe getting them prepared to have an overnight stay over the weekend, which also included collaborating and problem solving through the home setup. So the house that his parents lived in at the time was not necessarily easy for him to be able to go home to for any visits. So that included talking through and learning what his grandparents' house was like as well, so that he could kind of get out for an evening. Or on the 4th of July, I know that they wanted to go watch fireworks, and that was their first big outing that they wanted to do. So we had to collaborate with mom and dad and sister and brother-in-law and everyone to work on things like car transfers. Okay, how do I do medication management? What do I do about fatigue management while we're there for the night? So just thinking through every single little step along the way and working as a team to problem solve through each and every one of those. So another big key to his success during the inpatient stay was making sure that we looked at everything in the big picture. So we wanted to make sure that we looked at, okay, where is he functioning right now? What do we need to currently work on so that we can help him for his future? And we were constantly planning for that future as well. The world we live in, we know that insurance sometimes kind of rules our world and when people have to leave and how long they can stay. So it was really important that we involved his family at that time, because we really honestly never knew, is Ryan gonna have to leave tomorrow? Is he gonna have to leave next week? And we need to make sure that everyone that's surrounding him is prepared to help him in those ways as well. So, constantly training the family as we go along was extremely important throughout his stay. And as we all know, making sure someone is engaged in the sessions, so not just kind of going through the motions, otherwise we know that that is not going to improve function. So how can we keep Ryan engaged and somewhat excited for our sessions? So kind of getting out of the building as much as we could, doing things that he enjoyed, although that was sometimes difficult, because if I ask Ryan things like, hey, what do you want to wear today? I don't care. Every answer. Where do you want to go on this outing? I don't care, you choose. So we really had to kind of dig for that, finding things that were very interesting for him as well. And then, like I said, working as a team. So not just us having to work with Ryan and his family, but also talking to each other within our therapy department and within our nursing department to find out, what works best. Or maybe I saw this in a session and I want to share that with others so that they can work on that as well. So my question now to you, Patti, is how did you feel that On With Life staff supported you during Ryan's inpatient stay?
I guess what I think stands out the most to me, and I was very fortunate that I was able to stay with Ryan his whole stay. That was a choice we made, and the family house was just huge for us, so that made it possible for me to be able to do that. And I don't know if all those notes were because I'm a slow learner or what, but I needed everything that you guys showed me to be able to take him home and feel okay about it. And I learned that as I went. The empathy, the cheerleading, the laughter, the humor. I needed to be able to take that home with me, and I needed to see that for those 4.5 months, so I was able to do that, because you're never prepared. I don't even know if it was to happen to one of you, you're not prepared for that, and to be able to do that, and I needed that time to take him home and be okay, or as okay as we could be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it was just the support and everyone. I mean, there was not one person that I can think of that didn't support us all the time. I wore my feelings on my sleeve for the first probably 4.5 months, and I needed. That was the whole time. I know. Yeah, well, I know. So I said it. So anyhow, the staff was awesome. Everybody was awesome.
So some of the challenges that Ryan faced throughout his inpatient stay, one of the big ones at first was communication. So just basic communication. It's crazy to have these conversations with you now, Ryan, and think back to when you first were there. We were working on just simple yes, no answers. So maybe pointing to a chart that said yes or no. That's where it started. And then it started to get a little creative when we moved to writing. So we started trialing some writing on a whiteboard, and I thought, well, maybe we'll get a letter or two or something. So I give Ryan a marker, and some of you will understand this and some of you may not, but the first thing that he ever wrote to me was, "Bye, Felicia." So I caught on to that very well, and I'm like, okay, so you've got a sense of humor. I don't know that Mom understood right away, but we explained it, and now we have all kinds of "Bye, Felicia" jokes. But that was one of the first things he wrote. So from then on, we started giving Ryan a whiteboard, and we're like, you know what? You're just going to tell us whatever you need to tell us on there. I can think of a few other examples of if we go on an outing, where is the first place you would like to go? And it was Prairie Meadows, to go to the casino. And then we'll play another video clip here in a little bit, and there's some other stuff that we can talk about. But another big one was swallowing. So at first, Ryan was MPO, so you were not eating anything at the time. So kind of working on going through the stages of getting to eat and have regular food again. So yeah. So at first it was really hard to control secretions and think of all of those sorts of things. So by the time you left inpatient, you were having, a general diet with thin liquids. So progressing through all those stages. Another area was working on just those cognitive skills. So attention was huge, right? So severely impaired attention at first. So having to think about planning therapy sessions so we don't have too much distractors in the background, but also we need to slowly bring those back in because the world we live in is not in a quiet room with nothing else around. So working through all the stages of that. Another area that Ryan struggled with is sleep disturbance. So almost every day, Ryan would say, I'm just not sleeping. I don't feel like I've slept. I'm so tired all the time. So we decided, what the heck, we'll try a Fitbit. It tracks our sleep, we'll see what it says. Not that this is scientifically the best option, but hey, it gives us something to look at. So he started wearing a Fitbit and it would track his sleep, and sure enough, it would tell us that, you'd get 8-10 hours of sleep a night, and I'm like, whew, that sounds pretty good. But he would constantly report, I'm still feeling so tired and fatigued, which we all know that that's a major symptom of having the brain injury. So we could at least start to rule out some things that, okay, we know that he's probably sleeping, but he just doesn't feel like he's gotten good rest because he's constantly dealing with that fatigue. And I believe here's a picture of the writing of Prairie Meadows. And then we have another news clip to show.
One, two, three. Stand upright. Good, stand, bud.
Inside a therapy room at On With Life, Ryan Jansa is getting a workout.
Bend. Kick. Straighten. Perfect.
This may be shocking to see for those who knew Ryan before May 14th.
You do it.
But family members and therapists at this Ankeny Brain Injury Rehab Center see progress.
Here, you got it.
3 to 5 hours of therapy a day, starting from the beginning, trying to retrain basic muscle movement.
He's just doing things that I never knew if he would do those things again.
Ryan's mother has been a constant presence, watching and waiting for the next piece of her son to reappear.
I didn't know what our victories would be, and I think just progress each day has become a victory.
Even without his words, Ryan's personality seems to be intact.
I don't want to tell you what to write. I want you to come up with it. Let's try something a little more cheerful. Look at that smirk.
Oh my God, Ryan, you have not lost that sense of humor, that quirkiness you always have had. He's there. He is there.
Today, his family asked the question so many want answered. What happened that night he was found bloodied and unconscious in that Iowa City alley?
I think he'll want to know. If there's any way we can find out, he's going to want to know. Because I don't know that he'll know. When I asked him this morning if he remembered, he said no.
Ryan's mother says she's okay if she never finds out.
I can't think about that. It doesn't change what's happening today.
Bend, 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 bend. Good, right?
I didn't make it disappear, did I? Okay. Whoop. Okay, so a couple more challenges. So we already kind of touched on fatigue, but another one at the very beginning of Ryan's stay, it was really important that we worked in co-treatment. So whether that was with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech OT, speech PT, whichever that may be, because we needed the extra hands to be able to do anything. As you could see in some of those videos, at first Ryan required a lot of that physical help just to be able to get out of the wheelchair and engage in a session. So the extra hands were really important. And then again, towards the end of his stay in inpatient, it was important so we could work on those cognitive skills along with some of those motor skills at the same time. Another challenging area was the use of his left side and some visual neglect on that left side as well. So I know those are still things that are Ryan's continues to work on, but those are also areas that were targeted during his inpatient stay. And I believe our next one is one of the pictures of Lolo. So you've all heard and met Lolo, I'm sure, if you were here last year as well. But we found that bringing Lolo into those sessions, especially early on, helped Ryan to be engaged in those sessions. He loved Lolo, and it helped him pay attention to what we were currently doing. And we would try to incorporate her in as many ways as we possibly could.
All right, so to open up this next part of the presentation on the journey with outpatient, I want to start with a question to both Patti and Ryan, and that is, you guys live a distance from Ankeny. When you discharged from inpatient, you did not come to On With Life outpatient right away. It was after a period of time. So if you could, for everybody, just kind of fill in what did that time look like, as well as what was it that made you decide to come back to On With Life for outpatient?
I felt like that just coming back here would be like so much more, because I was able to do so much more than I was when I was an inpatient here. And just people here are specialized in brain injuries, so it was just a place that I could come and learn more than I already have. My cognition sucks.
That's not true.
So I was thinking about this question, and I guess what I came up with was, it wasn't that we weren't happy with where we were at in Cedar Rapids. I just felt like we needed to move to the next step. I had a hard time leaving On With Life, and was open to coming back every day for therapy if I had to drive. And Tammy said, you need to go home, you need to find out what that is. And she was the first one that had said that to me, and it was, I needed to hear that. You need to go home. We needed to find out what home was about. We needed to see what it was like being in Cedar Rapids again. But then he was at a whole different place come around to where 2018 insurance kicks back in and we have a choice. And I thought he made so much progress at On With Life, but he was at that stage. I wanted to see what would happen, the progress he could make at the stage he was at then. And I really wish everybody had that opportunity, because I really think it made a difference. The confidence came, and I saw that with people that we met in Cedar Rapids that had to go back home too from On With Life. And it could be any facility, but On With Life, I just saw what the confidence that it brought you. And I think that was the right decision. I believe it was.
I was also volunteering here, and I was on, my decision was to come back and start volunteering, because when I was an inpatient, I had people that were volunteering and spend time talking and hanging out with me, and it was a big inspiration to see what people, how far they got. And I wanted to give back to On With Life by coming back and volunteering as well.
So I think Patti hit on some real key issues that come to when somebody leaves our inpatient program, and especially when somebody lives quite a distance from our facility. And so fortunately within the state of Iowa, we have great resources, such as case managers, the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, to give us, to let us know what those resources are. So sometimes knowing what are those next levels of care? So whether it is outpatient, or whether it is a group home setting, or whether it's supported community living services. With this kind of journey, with this kind of road, sometimes it can be hard to know what that next step is. And so one of the challenges that many of our families face after that inpatient rehabilitation stay is, where do I go next? And Ryan and Patti are one of many families that we've had the honor and privilege of working with who have made the decision to travel for services. And so when we think about, what influences a person's decision to travel, I think Patti and Ryan both really hit hard on the expertise of that organization. So knowing that, yes, those services, so whether it's speech therapy, whether it's physical therapy, whether it's occupational therapy, that yes, those are generally available, but when you're looking for what is going to be the best for my loved one, you want to go to that organization with the expertise. A couple of other things that we have found too in our experience is the organizational culture. So you've probably heard many, many times today about our person served and how they feel that they always feel like they're supported, they always feel like they're being coached, that they always have cheerleaders, they always have people in their court, that in the face of a life-changing event, that everybody is still very positive, very supportive, never say never. And so a lot of people will then choose to continue along that continuum of care, knowing that that is the culture of the place that their loved one has been. And also with that comes the familiarity and rapport that we've already established. So, with Ryan coming back, even though I personally had not worked with him at the inpatient level, I still knew enough, him being part of On With Life and working alongside his inpatient therapist, to already know who Ryan is as a person, and to already come in working with him, already knowing your personality, what makes you tick, and what are the things that you want to continue to work on to get to that next level. So when it comes to somebody coming into On With Life outpatient who may have been in our inpatient program or may be coming from somewhere else, there are some challenges and some opportunities that we can take to smooth those transitions between level of care. And the first of that is communication and collaboration. When I get a referral for somebody in outpatient, I get a pile of documentation, but even the best written documentation does not fully paint that picture. So when I am collaborating with somebody on a referral, I want to be talking to that person. I appreciate it when a therapist gives me a phone call to say, hey, I just want to tell you a little bit about this person that's going to be coming your way. And yes, we're all about numbers, we're all about objective information, we're all about the quantitative data, but just as important to me is that qualitative and subjective piece. Yes, I know that I'm going to be treating Ryan, that he had a severe brain injury, but I think more importantly to me, again, is who is Ryan as a person? Who is he now? Who is it that he wants to become? That's that big picture viewpoint that we need to take when we're looking at successful rehabilitation. And so this goes back to that idea of person first. That again, yes, we specialize in treating a certain diagnosis, but that is not our mindset. We don't think of that diagnosis first when somebody walks through the door. We think of who it is that they are as a person. Something that I really wanted to highlight too with Patti in that the notebook. So taking notes so that she felt that she could prepare as much as possible for that eventual transition to home. And what I think was really cool about when you came back to outpatient is that you said, you know what? Yes, I want to be a part of this, but this is Ryan's show. So I will be here, but I'll be kind of waiting in the wings. And I think that really shows that you feel empowered, that you have the confidence to do what is best for Ryan and to help support him, and to start letting him take those next steps toward being on your own. So a big thing of what we do in outpatient is continuing to work with families so that they know that they're the experts too when it comes to their loved ones. And also kind of what Kelsee said, that in inpatient, you don't know when that person is going to have to leave. And we run into those same issues with outpatient. So whether it is that for some reason they're not authorized any more sessions, or we know that we're looking at a hard cap, we're looking at a definitive date when they need to be done, we start those steps early. One of the things that a lot of our persons served in our families, they panic a little bit about initially is that we talk about a model of episodic care in our outpatient program, saying, we know that we have these insurance constraints, we have these geographical constraints that we're working with. So over the next 90 days or so, these are the things that we're really going to be focusing on, with the idea that at the end of that time, you're going to feel confident with the appropriate supports and the appropriate home programming, then to go and carry over those things for a period, again, 4 to 6 months, and then that follow-up. Okay, now come back in. What stage are you at now? What's the next step? So, and part of that too is, again, empowering families to know that they have the tools and they have the ability to keep their loved ones moving forward. So, our outpatient MO. So, like Kelsee said, in inpatient, we're looking at the big picture. We absolutely do that with outpatient too. So, the advantage that we have with outpatient level of care is that, Ryan, you're in your home environment. Before, we could only try and predict or try and anticipate what challenges might happen with the transition home. Now you're actually in that environment, you're actually living through that, you're able to come back to us and say, okay, here are the things that are challenging us, here are the things that we didn't expect And we're using that to frame our therapy around. And especially in my role as a speech pathologist, I really take a look at somebody's roles. So, you know, you came into this journey, to this road, you came in as, you know, a college student living the typical college life. You sustained a severe injury. You went through this role as now being in rehabilitation. And now you're looking at what kinds of things have you gotten back into doing, but also now what are the opportunities that are out there. So you had mentioned that you had inspiration from those who had volunteered. And you came in saying, you know what, that's a role that I want to take on. And as we continue to move into the future, taking a look again at those other roles that maybe got interrupted. So going or being a student, going back to work, and taking a look at where are you at and what do we need to do to be able to get you there. And with outpatient and with the inpatient too, absolutely person-centered goal setting. So I'm always reminding myself as a therapist of a couple of things. So that is, again, looking at Ryan and looking at Patti as people, looking at them as human beings who have had a significant event shake up their lives, and listening to them tell me what it is that they want and need. Not necessarily, oh, well, I know that Ryan might still have a hard time once in a while with the swallowing, or that sometimes he's still missing information on the left side. No, I'm listening to what are those things that he's doing, what are those things that you're doing at home, out in the community, that you want to really continue on making better and really working on being able to get back to. Also, the other thing too that's a personal challenge for me as a therapist, and I really think this is where, you know, the burden does fall on us as rehabilitation specialists, is to think about, again, those activities, those tasks that we know are going to engage you, that are going to be super interesting, super meaningful. And then for us to be able to do that translation when it comes to the documentation side, and then going back to our payers and our stakeholders and saying, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so a specific challenge for me is to say, you know, how am I going to address these specific attention objectives or these specific memory objectives, but do it in a way that is going to make sense, is going to be meaningful for you, and is going to further facilitate your recovery. And then continued emphasis on the family and support system. So I talked a little bit about how Patti is just amazing in that, you know, she's taken the step back and has really taken steps to allow Ryan to be his own person. And that can be hard for a lot of families. You think about somebody who's just been discharged from an inpatient or a hospital setting, and they have all these recommendations like 24/7 supervision, that they need to have somebody take care of their medications, that they have to have somebody take care of their finances. Families are then coming to us going, I don't know what to do. How do I know when we can start rolling that back? And it's important for us to keep in mind too that family members have a whole lot else on their plates in addition to caring for their loved one with an injury. So there are jobs that caregivers need to go back to. There are other family members that those caretakers are responsible for as well. So continuing to support the family is essential in outpatient. So as we are wrapping up this afternoon, there obviously have been huge changes from the gentleman that you saw in the news clips to Ryan sitting here today. So my first question to you, Ryan, is give us an update. So where are you living? What are you doing?
They kicked me out. I'm living with my brother in Cedar Rapids now, just me and him. for the time being.
Until he kicks you out.
Yeah. He accepted me, I guess. I guess he wants my rent money. He is a banker, so he knows how that works. Let's see. I'm also doing like she said, my vision on my left side's bad, so I go to a place in Cedar Rapids called Visions in Motion twice a week. I do a exercise group at the hospital twice a week. And then, let's see, I got an adaptive bike made. I actually own it. I haven't taken out a whole lot, but it's still at your house.
Needs to move
Yeah, it didn't come with me for some reason.
as soon as we get back.
Are you still going to school on Fridays?
Yeah,
Wednesdays.
I volunteer at kindergarten class on Wednesdays.
And when do you start next week?
And then I start hopefully next week working at Wendy's. So yeah.
And the last question for you then is, as you are getting on with life, where do you see yourself in a few months, in a year, in 5 years? What are the things that, what are your big picture goals?
So start with just a month or whatever. Hopefully I'll be full-time work or just trying to think. Stupid cognition. So hopefully I'll be working more regularly at Wendy's in a month. Let's see, and then I hope to be driving sometime, so stay off the road, I guess. Might be a hazard. And yeah, hopefully I'll get out on my bike more.
Any thoughts for long term?
Long term. Maybe go back to school if this cognition ever gets better. I don't know if I want to throw that much money at it.
All right, and then also we'd like to pose a question to both of you, and that is, you know, we're in a room full of many people who are, I mean, all of us are involved in brain injury in some way or another. So what is important to you? What is it important for everybody else here to know about your journey?
I'd say just keep going. Always take pride in the small steps you make to get better, and just go from little step to little step. Don't look at the full picture, and just because if you're looking down the road really far, you'll get discouraged. So I just know that. All right. So before I couldn't move my left leg or walk or whatever, or dress myself, and then but as time goes on, those seem to get better. So just go from goal to goal.
I'll just take it away. The hardest thing for family was always the transition. That's always been the hardest. It's still the hardest. I'm still unsettled about the move. I mean, it's a good thing, but so that part has been hard.
Dad alone.
And I still have him. Yeah. So, but now I'm kind of, you guys' funniness is throwing me off or whatever here. I guess the thing is, so much happens so fast, it comes at you, and that's probably why I took all the notes, so I have to say I've not went back and read any of them. They're there. I'm going to get to them. But the transition is hard, but I didn't know all the right questions to ask. And I know that I've talked to Dave about this too, is that we don't always know the right questions to ask. It's almost like, can you have frequent, how on the websites you have most frequent questions or whatever? We need those. I need something Dave said as we came back as outpatient was therapy isn't everything. And it took me to come back to realize that he needs to move on with life. And therapy is still important, but it's not everything. And not that it doesn't need to continue, it does, but he's ready to move to the job. He's ready to live on his own. I want that for him. So,
I wanted to.
good. And go back to school.
So at this time, we've got plenty of time for questions for anybody up here.
Really?
I don't have a question.
Yeah.
I don't have a question, but that's wonderful. On with
Thank
life
you.
and what you've been through. How can we as caregivers make you feel comfortable as a mom to be in constant attendance and asking all the questions of us? What could we do to make you feel more comfortable and not like you're putting us on the spot or questioning our expertise?
Yeah. I don't know if I know the right answer for that. Again, I didn't know what questions to ask. And a lot of times you don't know it till months later or things happen that I wasn't ready for On With Life, if that makes sense. They said, this is where you need to be. Well, how do I know that's where I need to be? This is where you need to be. And it wasn't till a few weeks in that I thought, this is where I need to be. So sometimes it just happens and you need that little push. But another example is they give you that brain injury bag at the hospital. I don't know where it's at. It went with us everywhere. I never had a minute to look at it. We're almost 2.5 years out, and I've still not opened that bag. I need somebody now to give me that bag and say, hey, read this. This is really important. So I don't know that it never ends, because sometimes it takes, like again, I don't know that I'm the quickest learner, but it just takes a while to be ready for everything. But if we had, again, those questions maybe, those basic things that I need to know when I need to know them, and sometimes you don't know until you need to know.
Oftentimes, there's so many issues with insurance that are you still involved in brain injury lines or is there case management all set to the role for you as you transition from inpatient back to home, outpatient, now back to home?
We still have not met the brain injury. I mean, I'm sure we haven't not met them. We've met them at the Capitol for a few times when we went up there. We have not went to any of their meetings. They're not conducive with what we do at life or where we live. We need to make that a priority. It's something we need to do. The insurance thing about it is since this didn't happen when he was young, like I talk to people at the hospital all the time and they're like, they've had a social worker or somebody, that child was born this way, and this didn't come with that. We didn't even get one of those until we got to On With Life, and then when you leave with On With Life, they don't come home with you. Even though they're willing to answer the questions, but life just keeps getting busy and you don't have time to call them. Again, you guys all know, the insurance part is, I don't even know how to explain it. I wish I could be one of those advocates that go to the Capitol and talk to those people more. Maybe we'll get to that, but at this point, my niece is an occupational therapist and she made the comment to me that made so much sense, and she said, the people that are making these decisions aren't you people. They're people that get a little paper with bubbles, and if you fill and all the bubbles are filled out right, you get this, or if they don't fill out right, you might not get this. Now, whether that's true, it at least made sense to me. So anyhow, so that's on with the insurance thing. I don't know, I'll never be able to fix it at this point, but we're willing to help try if we can. Did I answer your question? Okay.
join me in thanking everybody that presented today. It was a wonderful job, and I thought they were just awesome. Just a couple final housekeeping items, and then you're free. Next year, we do have a conference date, September 13th. It's on a Friday. Please feel free to come back. We'd love to see you. Please turn in your evaluation forms. That will help us frame and structure the next event. Nurses, please sign in so you can get CEUs. And all CEU certificates will be mailed within the next 2 weeks following the conference. We have some drawing results. Mallory Lonergan. Yay! You have one from Angels in the Home, a Target gift card. Lori Walker. Oh, hi Lori. You have won a gift card as well. A generic MasterCard gift card from Hammer Medical Supply. Just come on up and grab them when we're through. And then free registration for next year's event was won by Janice Plew. All right, thank you all so much for attending today. We really appreciate you taking the time and commitment to learn. Thank you.